What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the MindShare podcast. This show is sponsored by Kits Keep in Touch Systems, a two-time international award-winning marketing suite for sales professionals, as well as REM Real Estate Magazine, Canada's premier monthly magazine for real estate professionals. Learn more about our sponsor by visiting my site, mindshare101.com. And while you're there, be sure to download your free copy of my book, The Ultimate Marketing Bundle, as well as learn more about our one-to-one coaching and keynote speaking. Today's episode is number 254. He co-founded, developed, and grew an original giftware company, selling to over 250 plus mom and pop shops, major retailers nationwide, and direct to consumer. He's a pioneer in the world of YouTube, playing a key role in bringing in over $2 million in brand partnerships for a hit show that has almost 7 million subscribers. And he has 20 plus years of experience in driving growth for both companies and people through creative content solutions. He says, "I'm like a bellhop. I open doors." Joining me on this episode of the MindShare podcast is content producer Jonny Goldmaker. Jonny, welcome to the MindShare podcast.
It is great to be here. Thank you for that intro. I wish I would record this and listen to it before I start every single day.
My man, listen, it might sound good coming out, but I got to tell you, reading it is quite the accomplishment. You've done a great job out there, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, we know when you hear it like that in that lens, totally. A lot of ups and downs, but ultimately it's been a ride. It's been great.
You know what though? Isn't that the case though? When it comes to business, it's always going to be about ups and downs. Like there's always going to be something that's pulling at you, always something else going on. Like I know here as we talk about content, we're going to get into that whole thing, and I want to actually do a background of like where you come from and all. But like I was talking to somebody the other day about that. Is like we're constantly tinkering, we're constantly looking at what else can I do? How can I make it better? I mean, we've been putting out content on video for I can't even tell you how many years. And when I tell you that we just never stop learning, we never stop going like, what else can we do in this realm? I never stop looking at the stuff and going, oh my God, man, I can't believe I said that, or I can't believe I did that, or that was horrible. Yet, like I would say that the brand continues to grow, good things continue to happen. But isn't that always the case? Like we're always tinkering.
Always. And it always will be the case. That's life. That's not even just, when it comes to content, it's business, it's careers, it's relationships. And it's, having a mindset of learning from the mistakes or learning from the, I've made many mistakes. It's two things. One, learning from those mistakes. And more importantly, allowing yourself to make those mistakes,
And being open with that, right?
That's it.
So tell me, man, tell everybody here as we get started. Who is Jonny Goldmaker? Like, tell us more. What have you accomplished so far? Because I read that out. We talked about, what do we say here? $2 million in brand partnerships. Like, that's a lot of money. 7 million subscribers. Like, but first off, like just background there. What have we talking about ups and downs? What have we accomplished?
So good question. So again, the through line for the majority of my career has been business development, working with companies and brands and people in certain regards and saying, okay, you're here. How do I get you from here to this goal that you want to achieve? It's been my through line. I feel like I'm like a gardener plant. I'm also a bellhop who opens doors, but I'm also a gardener who just knows how to plant seeds and intuitively feels like these might blossom, these might not, but go with the flow. So I ended up, I was at a stage in my career where I was kind of building websites and doing some SEO and stuff like that. And a good friend of mine, his brother, who I knew, started this YouTube channel called Epic Mealtime. And
Epic Mealtime.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say that, like, so that everybody could go like, okay, let me go check it out on YouTube, Epic Mealtime, just to get a sense of like what we're talking about. And again, Jonny, part of the story here. Sorry, go ahead.
That's right. No, not at all. This is about 2010. So about 2 months after it popped off, I joined to kind of help put structure around it, and bring in revenue for this. I cannot claim any credit for the creativity and the magic that those guys did. It's how do I take what they're doing and add a revenue stream to it. So that was my responsibility. I connected them with a network in San Francisco. I then moved there. I liaison between the two, between Epic Mealtime and the company in San Francisco, to ensure that these brands were integrated correctly, that the most important thing was the integrity of the show, the creativity of the show, the characters of the show, and how to do a natural integration with these brands and be able to monetize this audience that was growing massively over time. And that was my key responsibility. And it was my responsibility once we dropped the network after a year, where everything worked out great, but it was time to kind of do our own thing. Then I did my own deals with some brand partnerships and produced those independently.
It's interesting. We're going to come back to that because I want to dive deeper on like exactly that today, right? It's the same thing we talked about, being the bellhop. And I sort of took today's title and how to create content that opens doors for you, and so we're going to come back to that in a moment. But I mean, 7 million subscribers on one channel. I think there's another one you and I went through the other day, which you're part of, or you're doing some work with, and over 1 million subscribers.
Over 32 million views, but 186,000 subscribers, which is still massive in itself.
Like how?
Yeah.
How? Because I sit there every day with all my content, and I know my clients right now. I know everybody tuned in right now is going, I make videos, I post on social, I don't get that kind of reach. Like, how do I do it? Why am I not getting it?
Good question. I would say, I don't think that those numbers are even that important for, let's say, your audience or even you per se.
Okay.
My belief is someone like yourself or someone in your audience are asking those questions to themselves. What's important is having what they call 1,000 true fans. That's really what your goal is. It's so easy to get distracted with these massive numbers and be like, how do I get there? That might not be relevant to you. That might not help your business grow, depending on what your endeavor is. But if you can focus on the 1,000 true fans out there, the people that are going to, if you have something to sell, that product or a service, that, you can even get 80% of them. And the other 20% just is listening to you because you're benefiting them somehow in life. Then you've won, and that's your goal. These two entities are shows. And a lot of it has to do with timing. Like Epic Mealtime, top 3 YouTube channels at the time, crushed it. They had the right timing, they had the right comedy, they had the right concept. Bacon was huge. Like 2 years before that, cupcakes were huge. So they had
bacon was huge.
Bacon was
but like how insignificant it can be to create content like based on bacon.
Yeah, it's a part of it. It hits these things trend. It hits a nerve with culture, and that's a kind of, it became a cultural phenomenon. But also the dynamic of the host and the players there and the concept at the time, which was fresh, new. It just all came together at the right time for them. And my situation in life came together at the right time to help them with this, just from a monetization perspective, from a business development perspective, we'll say. But I'll tell you, the two things that I could pull from that show alone is how powerful a brand can be and how powerful having an audience can be. Massive. When you go around the street, you see people wearing bacon strips and bacon strips and bacon strips in Florida, in California, in Montreal, in Toronto. You're like, wow, this has had an impact. And that's the power of the internet. It's the power of these free social media channels that all of us have access to.
Okay, so action steps here, because I think that what I wanted to do there was say to you, so what's the trick to achieving that kind of growth, right? Should we even be focused on those numbers? And I think you just said that clearly. One, that may not be the size of the audience you need to be going after. Therefore, you don't need to worry about trying to keep up with millions and millions of followers, then looking at yourself and saying, I'm not there, therefore I'm not a success. That doesn't matter. You also coupled within that answer, it said something about when, as I say, maybe what's the trick to achieving the growth? People have to be, and again, forgive me, I'm not going to word this properly, but it's the host. Are you engaging enough?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think you said something around your content. Is that what people want to hear?
Absolutely.
Like those are the two things that people need to be focused on right now.
I would say let me add another layer to that.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, and this might sound cheesy. Stop
Hey, we're
looking
talking about
outward.
bacon. Cheese works too, man.
Hey, I love that, and
I
you're
mean, unless people are
100%
kosher,
right,
then it doesn't go together. I mean, bacon doesn't go at all, but anyways.
especially during Passover. Totally. I was going to tell you is this. It's like everything that we're discussing. It's like, I think we typically look outwards. We're typically looking and we're comparing ourselves to these things.
Right.
Okay, and look inwards. Listen to your instincts. Look at this as a creative endeavor. You have the answers. It's not like looking at these shows or looking at Gary Vee post 72 times a day and Kim Kardashian's brand. None of that's you. You got to figure out who you are, and that's the key. And then being like, okay, cool. Let me be myself, and and play. This is the two shows that I've worked on. One of them I'm currently working on is that in both instances, the show was the DNA of the person leading it. So the one show that I'm working on now is called The Coolest Thing I've Ever Made. 32 million views with only 28 videos and
That's
186,000
crazy.
subscribers.
32 million
Absolutely
views with only
powerful.
28 videos.
Exactly.
Like
But
I can't help but think I'm wasting my time.
you are absolutely
But seriously, what do
again,
you say to that? Because there's no way I'm the only person that gets that thought going through their mind. They're like, that's it. 28 videos, 32 million views. I have failed.
right. And you should, if you looked at this show and you look at your content, they're two very separate things. And it's not your goal. It shouldn't be your goal. You're being yourself right now. You're helping people. This podcast helps people. Your content helps people. Stuff that you may not be able to measure by a subscriber count.
Right.
But there's so many, as a mutual friend of ours talks about, is intangibles. And those are the things that are actually very important.
Shout out to John Ritter.
Exact. Amen. The man, the myth, the legend. Who's been a coach of mine, in a lot of ways. And it's good to have. That's another good point, is to have those people around you, having the right support system around you, having the right people to keep you on track. And I think that's the key here. It's like it's like content is like this. First off, I don't even like the word content because it's so butter sandwich in a lot of ways.
Okay, tell us more about that. How would you look at that then? It's a message?
Look at it as an art form. Look at it as a creative endeavor. You know what I mean? Like, look at it as back in the day before the internet existed, there was magazines, there was TV, there was movies, there was all these other forms. There's all these forms of we'll call it content for modern day time. Content, it's just like a blanket term for everything. It takes all that creativity. It takes all the handmade illustrations that were in previous magazines. Your podcast is your art form. This is an art form. You know what I mean? No one's telling you. You're not looking at data and come up with questions. You're being yourself right now.
You know what? I would. It's interesting as you said that, and I asked you the question to define that. As you started saying it, the art form and not content. I've really boiled this down to what I call I'm building MindShare, right? And that's the whole concept around everything we do, the MindShare podcast, MindShare 101. It's all about building MindShare. And part of what we're trying to do, the mainstay of what we're trying to do is we're trying to help our audience get to their next level. And part of that, and I explained this to you off air, but we do this in three concepts, right? And we include mapping, we include the concept of overall mind share, so from the marketing perspective, and we include mindset because mindset's absolutely important. And this, even to what you just said there around, it's not content, it is an art form. And to the thing that you said there specifically around, the magazine back in the day or whatever it is, I was going to bring that up and say, marketing is no longer run an ad in the newspaper, run an ad in a magazine and go, what kind of ROI did we see? Because there's way too many channels out there. It's way too busy out there. And now it's a matter of how can you tap into, I don't want to say every single channel available, but the channels that you find yourself taking part in. How can you also be part of the, the fabric when other people are taking part of those channels? And now you're able to say, okay, if I get the right strategy in place to say, I'm not just going to isolate to one channel, but I'm going to take this concept of building mind share, what we might say is, I'm putting content out to the world, but it's not, my goal is not to put content out to the world. My goal is for helping is to help people, right? And I'm
Perfect.
doing that through my art form, as you might call that. So now we look and say, okay, so I'm going to do
Exactly.
that, and I'm going to leverage a multi-channel approach. I'm
Mhm.
going to be consistent in my approach. I'm going to talk more about this, but right off the hop, when we think about a channel with 7 million subscribers, or we think about 32 million views on 28 videos, you know, one of the things that people start to do when they think about putting content out there is the word fear starts to creep in,
Mm.
and then they never want to go on to next steps. And so I guess the question here becomes, what's your take on the word perfection when it comes to content creation? And would
Mhm.
you say done is better than perfect?
Without a doubt, I would say done is there is no such thing as perfect.
Love that
And
answer.
whatever,
That's exactly where I'm at.
whoever you've seen that's producing content that's out there, it's been a journey. If you go back to someone like Joe Rogan, who has the biggest podcast in the world and biggest platform in the world, if you go back to his early days, he's sitting on a laptop and there's like all this background garbage going on. You just have to start. And the question is, okay, so when are you ready? Never. You will never feel ready. And I would say, if you don't mind me elaborating on the fear thing, the fear is less about, okay, actually, we'll talk about the perfection thing for a quick
Yeah.
second. What is this perfection thing, right? What is perfect? Just to,
Just on what you said, I've actually Googled it, and there is no definition for the word perfect. It'll tell you things like, it's like the process, like, of getting towards something,
right,
but there's no like perfect is this.
correct, and perfect to who? You could
That's a
sit in
great
a
point.
room
Yep,
and
it's a great point.
seven of you. You could be in a room with six friends. Seven of you completely disagree on whether a film was good or not. You all have your
Sure.
own take. You all have your own taste, and you all get something from it. In terms of producing content or creating content, fear, I think, has less to do with perfection, as we call it, and more to do with what other people will think of us. And that is what prevents 99.9% of us from doing anything, from going up, from putting content out there, from approaching someone at a bar and saying, hey, my name's Jonny. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it's that fear. It's there's actually a term for it. It's called spotlight effect. And the spotlight effect is it's an actual psychological phenomenon that when people think that everybody is staring at them, the spotlight is on them, and they're looking at them as they walk into a restaurant or bar. They think everybody's looking at them as they post something online. They think everybody's looking at it, not just looking at it, looking for the mistakes and the flaws.
Hmm.
And the
Hmm.
truth is, no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
Everyone is predominantly, and not in a selfish way. It's just how we're engineered. We're all thinking about ourselves.
Yeah, it's so true
Everybody's
though.
thinking about ourselves all day long. And you could be in a conversation talking about yourself, and the person that you're talking to will immediately bring it in and make it about themselves in a lot of ways, or they don't want you to do something because they're projecting your insecurities on them. But the truth of the matter is, why most people don't put themselves out there is a fear of what other people will think. That's the root of it.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. Uh Flowing right into that, if I'm worried about what other people might think, or if I'm worried about what people are going to think, well, I think about my content, think about my opinion, or what I have to say, or my video, or the way I put it out there, or what I was wearing, or whatever. How do we know? And as we talk, we continue this conversation like around content, creation and that art form, that message out there. How do we know what our audience wants to see, what they want to hear, what kind of stuff they want to watch from us? How do we know that? Do we know that? Is that even something we can know?
Great question. Seriously, great question.
Yeah. Because
We
that's where
don't
content will
know.
come from, right? That's where that message will come from.
Again, and I'm going to go back to my original point because it's a great question. Look inwards, not outwards. The answers are inside, not outside. Trust your instincts. Write. It's like people, they'll say, write the book that you want to read. Write the movie that you want to see. If you're constantly focused outwards on what do they want, it's going to lead you astray from who you are and what you want to focus on in this lifetime. You have to look inwards.
Okay, this is a great point, because I was going to ask you, like, when it comes to, okay, so let's do this. Okay, let's set the stage here, because a lot of our listeners are either all of our listeners are running their own business. That's one thing for sure. Well, I guess I can't say all of them, because I mean, we got people listening worldwide, which I am super grateful for. I don't even know most of these people, and to every single one of you, thank you. I appreciate you. A lot of these people, though, are running businesses. Many of them in the real estate industry. Where does somebody start when it comes to making the content? How do we come up with the idea? So you say, look inwards. Give us some more. Like, if I'm a realtor setting the stage, maybe providing some examples for us today. Like, what kind of things can I be looking at? What kind of things might if I have an idea and I'm thinking, yeah, maybe that's a good one. What do I do with that?
Great question. So I would say this. Think about your personal brand. And to me, there's like it sounds a little on the commercial side, personal brand, like you're not Nestle or Coke, but look at it like you have a personal brand.
Yep.
And going back to that fear of what people think, I'm just going to give you an illustration. Beyonce in person, apparently she's very, not that I've ever met her, very shy, but when she goes on a stage, she takes on a new character called Sasha Fierce, which is fearless, and she goes out there. So, think of yourself as that character, and you want to create that character that you think will attract the right people, but also is true to yourself. So the people that want to start producing content, number one, look at it as a creative thing. Look at it, have fun with it. Get a notepad and a pen, get away from the computer. Stop looking at other people's content. Take a break.
That's a great point right there. The more you focus on other people's content, the more you're just going to regurgitate whatever the people have said.
Correct.
Yep.
Take a week off. Detox from content completely. Get off the platforms. Get a pen and paper. Get a coloring book, whatever it takes. Start coming up with some ideas. Start digging deep. Start figuring out who you are and what you want to put out there. I would say that's number one. Get creative.
Now, hold on. Sorry, I'm going to ask you a question, right? Because some of the things that cross my mind right now is if I sat there and I went, okay, fine, I'm doing that. So I'm going to stop looking at some stuff, and I'm going to dig deep, and I'm going to go, who am I? Right away, I'll position it. I'm a realtor. That's who I am. Okay, what kind of content should I put out there? And if I start thinking, I'm going to talk about the interest rates, I'm going to talk about, the market, I'm going to talk about, fixer-uppers at home. I'm like, everybody talks about that stuff.
Right.
I'm not original. Should I just stop? Am I going down the wrong road, or is that exactly the right road right now?
Right. Good question. There is no way in the world that person is only a realtor. There's no way that person doesn't have a brother, a sister, a child, a pet, likes to travel, likes to eat, likes to go to restaurants, likes to go for hikes, likes to go golfing, likes Pokemon, loves the New York Giants.
Can you believe Pokemon's still a thing?
I think it's bigger than ever.
Like, I'm like, no joke. Like, I know 19 and 21-year-olds and 23-year-olds that are still playing, and they like my older cousins actually still play with my kids. It's kind of, it's interesting.
Totally.
Anyways, sorry.
No, it's true. Fair enough. To each their own. I mean, that's what makes them. But that's what makes everybody you just discuss. I mean, to me, back in the day, you would have got bullied for liking Pokemon. But just to say, it's like, this is to each their own. Everybody has things in life that make them happy, that they enjoy, whether it's running or exercising. There's those things that say, okay, no, this is who I am. This is kind of what I believe in. These are my values and principles. It's not just like sipping Cosmos on the beach. You know what I mean? Like, I would say that's number one, is just, this is me. And it's a fun thing. Get creative. Mm-hmm. Talk about the things that you love in life. But I would say even more important than, not more important than that, in addition to that,
mm-hmm.
truthfully, the most, outside of the most entertaining forms of content out there, are the ones that give the most amount of value to people for free. Here's how I can help myself from 2 days ago, from 2 years ago. What have I learned in the past 2 years? What have I learned in the past 2 days? What would I tell myself who wanted to get into real estate? That you can get into real estate. You know what I mean? That, all these things. Talk to yourself from 2 years before. Talk to yourself from a week before. Give people as much value as you possibly can. Help people. If you're feeling kind of like it's like Monday morning and a little down, and there's a motivational quote that makes you feel good, share that if That's who you are. Share a joke, share a meme. Talk to yourself from 2 years before, or a year before, or a week before. Give people value. Help them.
See, that's where part of the thinking goes, so I can tell you about me, and I do this often with my audiences, especially when I'm live. I'm like, what do you know about me? And people yell out, family. Yeah, talk a lot about my family, right? And some people yell out, baseball. And, oh yeah, you see me like always talk about baseball. Hockey, right? So sports is a big one. Motorcycle, right? They'll talk to me. Okay, cool. What else? I had somebody yell out one day, like in a live room, like pizza, and I'm like, oh my god, like, do I post that often about pizza? But I love pizza. And you go, it's amazing that people that you've really only met online, and maybe they've technically only met you because they're watching your stuff, have picked up so much about who I am as a person. And a big part of that is trying to express to people, like, we're not just per se a voice on a podcast or a talking head on a video or a person that was hired to be on a stage. We are people, and we have our own likes, and we have our own interests, and we have our own desires, and we have the things that are important to us, and all of that we've got, and I think this is the big part of the message here to our audience right now today as well, is that a big part of your content strategy is very much who you are, right? Sharing that with people.
Correct.
Because at the end of the day, if you're putting the content out there to build the mind share, to help other people, then a big part of that is to get other people to know you, right? To like you, to begin to trust
100%.
you.
100%.
So now, if we're talking all about us, right, and I'm telling you about motorcycles and family and sports and pizza and whatever else you could find in the list of things that I talk about on personal, now we talk about the business thing, and we say, okay, I want to put out content that's relevant, okay? Because some people never want to go they never want to go near the market stuff just in case they're wrong. What would you do though? How do you suggest people might stay up to date with trends? Is there something, that we should be looking at to create our own content? Like when it's like, okay, spend once a week. Like, what kind of tips might you give somebody about, like, spend once a week, like researching X, or do you know where I'm trying to go with that?
I know exactly. Sorry, where you're going with it. I'm trying to think of a good answer for it. So, in all honesty, it's so there is a business component about it. Let's say you're in the real estate business, and I don't know how frequently people buy houses, but they might be done. But they might be more interested on, a certain type of aesthetic house, and that person might have ideally, your competitive advantage is yourself. And that person might have a specific interest in a type of real estate. Let's just say townhouses is their niche, or townhouses in a neighborhood in Toronto is their niche, or condominiums are their niche, or you know what I mean? Like, and kind of illustrating, the lifestyle around these types of places could be a nice form of content. Like, people want to see themselves living there. If I bought a house a year ago, do I give a shit about the real estate market now at all? It has no impact. I'm not moving in a year.
In fact, if you bought a year ago, you probably don't want to know about the real estate market right now. You just want to know that everything is good.
Correct. Exactly.
Right.
Or I'm aspiring for, what's my next step in life?
Right.
What's my lifestyle? What does that house look like? What's the interior like? And yeah, people want to see themselves, in the future. They have aspirations. I don't think a lot of people care about the trends in the market per se, unless they're really interested in, they'll find it. I think the majority of people are focused on living, and what does that look like?
It's an interesting point you bring up there. Anytime we hear somebody talking about market stats, not for anything, it's completely boring. Unless you can find like a super, super, super creative way to like make this the most interesting market stat conversation you've ever had. Like, the one person that I know that does it really, really well, who's actually been on the show before, is Benjamin Tal, Deputy Chief Economist of CIBC. He's been on the show. Like, I remember the first time I heard that guy talk about money and like economics and like what's going on with the market, I was laughing, and I thought it was like, not laughing at him, like he was funny in the delivery. He actually found a way to make it an interesting conversation.
Right.
Most people can't do that. So we look at sort of
Agreed.
the idea of like trends and stats being one thing and saying, okay, sometimes yes, you need to show people you understand what's going on in the market.
Hmm.
Moreover, though, I think when we talk about lifestyle, again, who you are, what you're about,
Hmm.
we also talk about lifestyle, who they are and what they're about. There's our
Yep,
hit home content. Because now, if we think about the way we scroll
totally.
our TikToks and Instagrams and Reels and YouTube Shorts and all that stuff, the one thing we're looking, I mean, I know for me, when those people are climbing those crazy towers, like free climbing, you're like, you're nuts. And now I'm getting a bird's eye view from somewhere that I never really get to see. I think it's cool. Or you show me a
Right.
really, really crazy house and you're like, wow, you're like, it's stop. And like, that's cool.
Totally. Exactly. And that's going to hit home with most people. And I just want to go back to what your guest.
Yeah.
What was his title?
For Benjamin
What was his
Tal.
Yes, what was his
Oof.
title again?
Oh,
Or no, what was his
Deputy Chief Economist of CIBC.
perfect. This is his career.
Yeah.
This is what he's interested in more than anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's made a
Yeah.
career out of this. So that's part of who he is. That's his, if passion gets thrown around too much,
Yeah.
but that's his key interest in life. So he could talk ad nauseum. He could find
Yeah.
creative ways to talk about
Right.
it because that's him. That might not be you. That might not be a listener, an audience member of yours. That might not be a client of yours. That's him. And that's why he crushes it. And that's why he has a lot of success in his career. You know, it goes back to this. He has a natural interest in it.
Right. So it's bringing, okay. So as we look at what we've accomplished so far today, all right, one is that done is better than perfect. There is no such thing as perfection.
100%.
Two is that everybody has this fear about creating content. Everybody has this spotlight syndrome that you think
Yeah.
everybody's watching everything you say. You think everybody's analyzing everything you say. Most people aren't paying attention whatsoever. Okay.
They think about themselves.
We then look at like what kind of growth should I be looking to achieve? And it's like, well, again, don't compare yourself to anybody in terms of the millions or the billions or whatever. Really think about who your audience is and can I create a community of raving fans? Now it's how
Well
do I
said.
do that? What kind of content do I put out there? And so far, what you and I have talked very much about today is lifestyle, right? Who are you? What are you about? Who are they? What are they about?
Hmm.
So we started to create the bones of creating content. So the next question then becomes, and again, you've obviously done a phenomenal job of building some businesses and attracting the right people. And naturally speaking, a lot of that's going to come from what are the first few things that come out of your mouth? What are the first few things that people hear? What is that perception? So sticking with this part of the conversation today, any tricks you can give anybody about, creating headlines that will grab attention so that people will actually consume what it is you have to say?
It's a good question. Um,
And I know it's loaded, Johnny. I know it's loaded. It's just it's I guess what I'm trying to do is give everybody like a jumping off point when they come up with something and they're like, okay, I'm gonna listen to what David's saying, and I like, mountain biking. I'm gonna go and talk about mountain biking today. And the first thing going
right,
through everybody's mind right now is like, what does that have to do with my business?
right.
And the
No,
reality is it's you. You are your business.
you can do so. And I'm going to go back to the second point.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
lifestyle, but it's also value. It's giving people value. So
Value's huge.
maybe
Huge.
it's maybe if you love mountain biking and that's your something that you love doing. How do you tie mountain bike? How do you tie a mountain biking story? Because stories are what people actually learn from more than anything, versus headlines. How do you take a mountain biking story and turn it into a lesson for people listening or watching or reading what you're saying? And how does that mountain biking story help them? How does it give them value? How does it make them laugh? And in terms of like a headline, um, what's the story? What's the lesson there? What's the pain point? So if someone identifies in a headline, this is something I'm struggling with, or this is going to solve something for me, that should be your headline. And the entire story should be around that analogy will you keep on the mountain biking, how it solves it and how the pain point is solved in this or extrapolated from it so they can help this person in an entertaining way, you know?
Like that. Like that. Yeah, because I think some of the things we try to do, we try to certainly answer the question in the headline for
Hmm.
what people might be asking about, right? So
Correct.
if there's a natural thought that happens, it's like, how do you turn that into a natural answer that somebody might read and go, yeah, me, I do that. Click, watch, right? Or, hey, I got to tell you this crazy story about mountain biking. Or you ever heard that story about, right? Like little things like that, but it's how do we tie it back that the audience, again, much the same, will somehow go, yes.
Mm.
Or like, oh, I want to learn more. And that's something from just from a headlines perspective. And I'll tell you, like it's something we continue to try to perfect is figuring out what is that headline that's going to grab more people. But I mean, here, even if it's like how to create content that opens doors for you, we could have just said, hey, content creation. We could have said, 7 tips to creating great content. And all these things
Yeah.
kind of have their play on it. But one thing that I can tell you that I've learned is that what's somebody typing into Google? They might say how to create content, right? Will they type in how to create content that opens doors? Probably slimmer, probably not like the full that opens doors for you, but they might say how to create content, how to create content that sells, how to create content for my business.
Yeah.
This is where we're starting to answer these questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd say that it's more on brand with you and more on brand with me. And the truth of the matter is, you know what I mean? And that's your show. And that's who you are. And that's who I am. And as someone who's done, yes, I've produced these shows and the content and stuff like that. But my real through line, my entire career has been business development. Even including in starting the giftware company, I predominantly did business development. And in modern day times, the absolute best way to do business development, no doubt, is by content, is by putting yourself out there on scale and letting people know, hey, this guy does this, and I'm going to go to him because he's giving me so much free value up front. He's written so many posts on LinkedIn that can help me on my career path. I'm going to go to him or her,
Right. Yeah.
And that's the key, is that you create your luck surface area by putting stuff out there. More people hear about you. They're like, oh yeah, they type a lot, or they'll send a link. Not even just in business. Could be like, it could be someone that you admire finds your content and sees what you're doing, and you're connecting to this person that you just admire, and it's just a new relationship in your life. But you really create your luck surface area by putting yourself out there. People always looking, why is that person so lucky? Or why is this? They put themselves out there. They know their niche so well that everybody knows them within that niche. So the opportunities start coming to them.
We call that they've built MindShare.
Love that. There you go.
So here, talk to me about the talk to me about the time involved, right? Because it's one thing now as I'm listening and I'm taking all this information in today, going to myself, all right, we got to create this luck surface area. We got to put ourselves out there. We got to get more people to know who we are. We're going to build more MindShare. Now we look and go, oh man, but I wear the dad hat, and I wear the coach hat, and I wear the the business hat and the realtor hat and the all this and everything. Like, I don't have a lot of time. What about the time involved in this process? Like, what kind of consistent structure do you recommend around planning and calendaring when it comes to actually executing on this type of stuff?
Good question. I'd say number one, if you have kids, start neglecting them. No, I'm kidding. You know what it is?
You heard it here first, folks. Don't worry about the children. Make content.
There we go. That's the key to success. The number one thing that I've realized in life is that if it's important, you make time. Time is like it's like this fallacy that we don't have time. So many of us are just so busy doing nonsense or in our heads or not doing stuff. You make time for what's important. And
Hold on, I just got to stop you right there for a second. You guys all got to understand something. Jonny and I, this is our second conversation we're ever having together. We have not dug into the concept around time, but for as much as I harp on you about scheduling and time, he just said the same things, and him and I have not, we didn't pre-plan that. So again, just a little nudge, like a little poke in everybody's forehead right now to say, and I tell you all the time, like if you tell me you don't have time, I'm going to call bullshit. Okay. Totally. I'm going to tell you, you don't know how to really empower time to manage you. And that's the problem you got.
Correct.
Sorry. It's just you're
Absolutely.
talking my, like, sincerely, you're talking my language here, and this is something that I talk a lot about, is around the concept of time. And so just to what you were saying there, I just wanted to hit that home, that again, like,
Good.
we consume content. We hear
Mhm.
similar things from different people. Today, we're getting a very similar message from two different individuals on the same show. And again, for everybody to understand, like, this is our second conversation.
Yep.
There's certain things you have to
100%.
do to be successful, though. Sorry, keep going there. I
That's it.
apologize.
No, not at all. And know that you make time for this, number one. Number two, it will give you energy. It's not going to take away energy. It's the opposite. When you're
Yep.
creating something, or you're writing something, or you're doing something, it will give you energy. It's not going to take it away. And honestly, if you feel like you don't have enough time, give yourself 48 hours off of social media. Take a break from, even though I know you're producing for it, take a break. See how addicted you actually are and how much more time you have. Stop watching Netflix or a show. It's like, oh, okay, but how do I wind down? Be bored. Be bored. We live in a time now where just nobody has the capacity to be bored for 10 minutes.
It's so
You
true,
can't be
man.
you can't be in a lineup at a Starbucks and everybody's on their phones because they just can't sit and wait for a minute. That's why meditations become big and all these other forms. Go on a run. Think. You don't need to listen to music. Remove yourself from all of the distractions that you think keep you busy, but they don't, and they don't give you energy. They actually just drain you. Take a break. Create something. It will give you energy. You'll enjoy it. You'll start to hear yourself talk, and it will give you energy. So bottom line is, you make time. Number one, what works for me, because I could be a lazy piece of shit just like the next person,
Mm-hmm.
is setting a deadline. If I know I have a deadline, I have to live up to it. And if I have a
Accountability.
goal, 100%, even if it's just on me, I need a deadline. So I'm going to say, because it does require focus, it does require strategy, it requires mental energy. So next Friday, I'm going to publish my first post, or in 2 Fridays, I'm going to publish my first post. I may not know what it looks like after that, but I'm going to commit to my first post is next Friday, or the first of a month. And I'm going to say, I am going to do this once a week for 100 days straight, or I'm going to do this once a week for 100. I'm going to do 100 of these, something like that, where you have like this, you have your goal, you have your streak that you're going to develop, you have your commitment, because the majority of people drop out after 3.
We
Drop
call
out
them
after 5.
most people. Like,
I don't know what.
look, no, but I've coined that. Like, most people don't take the time to schedule themselves. Most people
They don't.
do take the time to bitch and complain about the time they don't have, though.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't take the time to create content. Most people want to create content so they can build more mind share.
Yeah.
So it's like, schedule the time, quantify the, what the results are going to look like, and not how many viewers, not, anything, but moreover, just, I'm going to do, 50 videos over the next 100 days. And I'd even say to anybody, that's lofty, right? Maybe it's one video a
Right.
week you're going to put out there, right? But we've
Yeah.
got to quantify that to say, where's that going to begin, and then create a habit around that. And that's, again, what we talk about, when I say one of the big concepts, mapping. How are you carving out your time to make that happen? Now,
Totally.
let me ask you that thing. What about the channels that I'm creating my content for? Right.
Mm-hmm.
You obviously really took YouTube and ran with that. I know for us as a brand, we've got, I mean, geez, seriously, it feels like we're everywhere, but like, Facebook is there. It's always been there. YouTube has been there for a long time. We're trying to get better with YouTube. Instagram Reels are a big, big play for us. TikTok is somewhere that we are, but I myself don't spend a lot of time scrolling social media whatsoever, just from a time perspective as well as a mindset perspective. I try to really keep that in control. And then when we
Mm-hmm.
are there, there's act with purpose. Don't just stalk people, but actually get in there and like communicate with people. Do I need, and when I say I mean the bigger picture of our audience today, but do I need to be adapting my content differently to the different platforms? Should I be concerned with that? Should I just start creating and posting the same stuff to my favorite platforms and see how that goes? Like, do you have 2 cents for everybody on that one?
Definitely. So
Okay.
it's a really good question, because it's more of like, okay, you've got the first component, the why, and the kind of how,
Yep.
and now it's the tactical part of it. It's the actual
Right.
process, it's
Yeah.
the execution of it, which you know, and ideas are great, but if you can execute on it, I would say if you haven't done anything, just start with one platform that you like, where you think the people that are interested in what you are what you're doing, and that's where they live. If you like writing, Twitter. If you like, if you want to increase your, I look at LinkedIn as more of a B2B marketplace. So if you're selling to another business, LinkedIn might be the ideal platform. Or if you find
we're on
yourself
LinkedIn too. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
okay, perfect. But if you find yourself living on LinkedIn a lot and you read other people, that might be the area where you want to shine. You again, it's like part of it is an inward question. Where do you like to be? What platforms do you like to be on? Like personally, I can't be on Facebook. I'm not a big Facebook guy typically. I was at one point. Now I'm more on Twitter and Instagram.
I can't stand Facebook. And we're actually live on Facebook right now. We love you, Facebook. We love you.
Facebook's the best. I mean, I'm naming my first kid Meta. I mean, there's no question. But generally, I'm not on Facebook. I mean, I'm not really on it, but I'm on Twitter a lot. There's a lot of learning to be on it. LinkedIn, when I was doing a big business development rush, I noticed that there was a lot of great content on there, a lot of good content creators, not just people promoting themselves. Instagram can be fun. When I was traveling a lot, I noticed that a lot, like when I was in Argentina last winter, I noticed the majority of people there were on Instagram, or their brands were. So it kind of got me onto there. You find, again, it's an inwards thing. It's looking inwards and being like, who's my tribe? Where are my people? They're all around the world. Like you said, your audience is all around the world.
Yeah.
Not just in a neighborhood in Toronto.
You're right.
It's connecting with that tribe. And they could exist anywhere, and connect with, and your tribe is probably on multiple, if not one platform that you already enjoy being on, that your content makes sense for. And I would say master that first platform before moving on to the second one. Don't worry about distribution first. Worry about building a rhythm. You talk about scheduling.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. The rhythm. Yep.
I would add a layer to that it's building that rhythm, and that rhythm that's natural to you, and not looking at it as like, certain people don't like me. I don't like the word discipline, even though ultimately it's what I'm running every day.
Yeah.
There's a discipline to it, but it doesn't necessarily attract me when someone says that you need to be more disciplined. It's like,
yeah, you actually turn the other way. You almost put your back up.
Completely.
Yep.
Back in school, where a teacher used to tell you what to do, and it would be like, nah, and then you literally want to just do the opposite: eat pizza and drink soda. So it's finding your rhythm. It's like, this is a rhythm. Monday mornings, last thing I want to do is get it to work. Maybe Monday morning I'll feel great writing, because it's going to put me into a good mindset.
You know what?
For the week.
I'll tell you something. First off, my coaching clients are sitting here going rhythm. Like, there's no way Dave and this guy didn't talk prior, because that's something we talk about, right? Like, I'll make suggestions on how your day should flow, but it's only a suggestion to give you some bones to build off of, because now it's about finding your rhythm, right? And to what you just said about Monday mornings, like, we put out a Monday vlog that's been going out now for 386 Mondays in a row or something. Like no joke. It's that consistent.
Beautiful.
And once upon a time, those videos were being recorded at certain times and being posted on Monday. Then it got to a point where it was like, okay, every Monday morning we're going to record that, and we're going to edit it, and we're going to post it. And that brought on a massive source of anxiety for me, of having to get up and first thing Monday morning, turn on that, like, I'm on, right? Go record that video, get it edited at the first top of my day, get it out there. We changed everything because the rhythm wasn't working, but that video still goes out every Monday morning, right? So now it's about, again, finding what time works for you. As you said, finding the channel that works for you. So then I would ask you this: what about the idea of tracking the analytics? And again, I had said, like, I'm going to come right back, and we talked about this off the top, and you and I talked about this on the phone the other day, but I went, John, I want 1 million followers. I want to get to that. Right. How do I do that? And you turned to me right away and you said, Dave, it's not about that. Find your 1,000 loyal fans. I believe that's the way you said it to me.
True fans.
Right, exactly. Dave, you don't need 1 million. I'm like, but Johnny, I want, you're like, Dave, 1,000 true fans is the way you coined that to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd sit there today thinking to myself, again, like I want more. I believe that I believe I want more, but I guess tell us more about that a little bit more, and maybe it takes us right back to where we started today. But like the kind of expectations we should have after everything we've learned today about coming up with content and the time it takes and why and what and where. What should my expectations be like when we talk about just even analytics? Never mind the millions versus the thousands.
Right.
Because
So I think,
and forgive me. I said this to you off the
go
top
for it.
as well. We can look at how many people are watching live right now. We might get zeros.
Mm-hmm.
Yet we know, and I know, and this is just purely through experience. I have people come up and they're like, "Yeah, I was watching the show." And I'm like, "Oh, where were you watching?" They're like, "Oh, I was on live with you." And I'm like, "Didn't show me that." Or people come up and be like, "Oh man, I listen to your podcast all the time," and I'm like, I've never seen them click like on Instagram, or I've never seen a review on the podcast. It's like I didn't know they
Right.
were there. So I believe analytics don't tell us the entire story.
That's right.
What's your take and what's your your advice to everybody on that sense?
I would say analytics could be a good indicator of who your audience is and when they like to look at your content at a certain inflection points.
Okay.
But you also don't want to be led too much down that, because then you're just chasing that group. You're just chasing that like. You're just chasing that spike in traffic. And that's what you kind of see nowadays. Like it's like this clickbait stuff. I mean, not necessarily. I mean, maybe I'm taking it down too much of a negative road, but where media companies out there and newspapers just want clicks. So they'll have
Right.
that headline like everybody's going to die.
Yeah.
Wear a mask. Everybody's going to die. And then you're building a brand. I mean, you're saying like most of them are entrepreneurs or real estate agents or individuals.
Yep.
You're building a personal brand. Just be genuine, be authentic, which another word that gets thrown around too much. Be yourself, have a sense of humor, talk about what it intuitively feels like, what you want to talk about, talk about how you can help people. Could be timing, could be the day, could be that everybody was bored that day, could be that it was terrible weather where they were and that everybody was inside watching content, not at the beach. You know what I mean? Like it tells one story at one point in time, but the people that I see that are very successful in the long run no longer look at that.
Okay. Is there a way to say, like, if I said to you, how do we measure success based on our efforts?
Great question.
First, we know we could both agree it takes time.
Without a doubt.
There's no overnight success.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a metric for measuring success? And can I maybe answer that on my own and tell me if you agree with it? But did I execute consistently?
Excellent.
Okay.
Totally. I would say that is it. I would say that it's I think Seth Godin even talks about it. It's about the practice. It's not about the results. We have no control over the result.
That yes.
So, but we do have control over the process. We do have control over the fact that we can write and produce and put something out there. How people react to it, we have no control over. So
Right.
to tie our emotions to an external factor is such a waste of time. It's not something you can control. You can only control your effort. You can only control your time. That's it. And doing the best job you possibly can. You don't want to lob a piece of shit out there.
No, for sure.
You want to put something
good.
But
to get beyond the piece of shit, you almost got to just try, see what happens, see where it falls, and then try again and continue to learn from whatever may or may not have transpired and say, what can I do to be better? And then consistently execute.
Exactly.
I mean, dude, that's how we got to, what did I say? This is episode 254, I believe. Like, I had no idea where I was starting with a podcast when we first started this. It was recommended to me by a buddy of mine from the US. He's like, you got to do this. And so I did it. And I went, I don't know what I'm doing. And well, I don't know. Here we are. I seem to feel pretty comfortable. I know what I'm doing now. And we know we have people listening. So then as you talk about not being able to control the external, how do you suggest people manage negative feedback, negative comments, right? Criticism around something you posted. Like, I know for me, when I go to, like, I'll get notifications like my YouTube channel, and I get these notifications of people people have some of the funniest shit that they say. Some people, you could tell it's not even relevant to whatever I was talking about in the video. Other people, like, sometimes it'll be like, you know, I mean, man, people will say some stupid shit, and sometimes you can take that and be like,
No doubt.
ouch, bro. But I've come to be like, I just laugh. I mean, there is not a thing
Good.
out there anymore that gets me. But what do you say to that for anybody that's like really concerned around what they might think?
I think it's number one. It is the number one thing that holds people back is that fear of people's reactions and what people think of them. I would say that everybody in their life, I hope, does have people around them that they trust, whose opinions they trust, whether it's a sibling, a relative, or a best friend, and you trust their opinion. Ultimately, that's it. Those are the people that matter. Those are the people that know you. And sometimes some feedback can be very positive, but so you got to ignore some random kid in a basement who's unhappy with their life posting negativity. I mean, to put energy into that is, they're making time for it. I mean, it's kind of pathetic. Ignore it. You got to trust in yourself. Trust that you're putting something out there that you think will help the next person. Trust that you're putting something out there that would entertain the person. Got to trust yourself.
Okay.
Period.
So and then be consistent about your process.
Without a doubt. Because
That's
otherwise
where
you
you're
get
going to get your
lost.
growth.
You got to, consistency is everything. And no one fact. I wish I had the actual stat because someone reported it. Most people quit. If you don't quit, if you stick to, I don't know, what did you say, 386 Mondays in a row or something like that, or
Yep.
you will succeed. Most people quit. You just don't see it. You just don't see them. You stick to a number. You do 100 posts, 50 of videos in 6 months. Whatever you want to produce, you stick to it. You will succeed.
So as we talk about success and succeeding, as the day ends for you,
Mm-hmm.
you go to lay your head down at night. You've done everything you had to do today. How do you know it's been a successful day for you?
That's a great question.
And I'm
You
talking
know,
Jonny specifically now.
yeah. You know what's funny? It's something. It's a routine that I've been getting into more and more. I literally put a card by my bed just to remind myself, just to reflect on the day and say, what was good about today. Um, and it's not a consistent thing. It's maybe it should be. I don't know. Each day is different. Did I get closer to what I want to be doing with my career? Did I have a positive impact on someone? Did I have a good day? Did I have a bad day, and why did I have a bad day? Sometimes it's a reflection on, not every day is great.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this. Like, for me, a big difference in having a great day and a not so great day is just a good night's sleep the night before. And it's. But did I still go for a run? Did I, do things effectively? So there isn't one specific metric or KPI. It's just a daily reflection. It's actually trying to, like, look at what was good that day, and did I do it? So maybe for your audiences, did I actually write something today? Did I publish something today? Am I getting closer to publishing it? And am I ready for this date to publish? Did I do something that was kind of uncomfortable? Where it's a personal thing.
Yeah, no, it's a great answer. But the one thing I didn't hear was anything about money. And I think that that's important because we focus so often on how much money we can make and whether we got the deal and whether that transaction went through and what's in our bank account and and affordability, and especially at a time like right now in our world, it's very prevalent, and especially right here at home, in
Right.
Canada, in Ontario, Canada. I know you're not in Ontario with us right now, but just that overall conversation, yeah, it's big. That being said, every time I've asked that question, and so Jonny, I ask that question at the end of every single show. How do you know
Okay.
it's been a successful day for you? And there's not a single guest yet that has said I've made a lot of money. Nobody ever brings up the word money.
Mm.
And I just want to again reemphasize the importance of that for everybody right now is that as we talk about goals, we talk about what we want in life. And yeah, we all love money. We want more of it so we can have more freedom and do more things. our goal still should always be, time, right? Is really controlling time, what we do with our time, who we spend our time with, our health,
Totally.
what we're doing for our health, and what we're doing to take care of ourselves. And as long as that's at the forefront, you're going to be happier. You're going to feel more accomplished. And Johnny, you were just saying it. It's like at the end of the day, again, you haven't written down how much money you made or how many followers you got. You wrote down like, did I execute on the things that I committed to doing today? Did I put things out there? And that's the type of stuff right there that I think is again the mindset that everybody needs to continue to succeed or to get that level of success.
Absolutely.
So just before we tie up here, any final words that you want to share with our audience today about maybe things that we talked about, maybe something we didn't cover, but things that they can do to get out there and build more mind share so that they can get more market share. Some final words of wisdom.
Sure. I mean, this is cheesy. Be yourself, but really be yourself. Have fun with it. Think of this process as a creative endeavor, not it's not a spreadsheet. It's not like you have to crunch data. Just go with the flow a bit. Listen to yourself. It's an internal thing. Find your rhythm. It's you being yourself on your find your rhythm. Do it. Commit. Be consistent. Don't quit. You will get there. And going back to your money point is that if you do this, you will create more security for yourself than any other job will, because you will create more opportunities for yourself. Period. There is absolutely no downside to it. Forget about what you think other people think, because you don't know how other people think, and take a risk and do it, and you will be grateful. Period. End of story.
Very awesome, man. No, I love the message. It definitely rings through. And I agree with you, man. Like I really do. Lots covered in today's episode. But again, as we sat here today with content producer Jonny Goldmaker talking about how to create content that opens doors for you. Again, I hope you were all taking notes listening to this show, whether you're on the live or you're on the recording. Either way you slice it, obviously you can go and play it back. But I think we really sat here today, and Johnny, I thank you, because I think that we really came up with, the process to creating content, the goal of what that content should be, how to come up with that content, what our expectations are. I think we really help people get over that, that sort of juncture, that bump, that whatever, to be able to create more content that opens doors. So Jonny Goldmaker,
Beautiful.
a big thank you for joining us on the MindShare podcast today.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You are either watching us live, you are listening to this recording, maybe you're on our favorite podcast platform, you went to my website, mindshare101.com. While you're there, be sure to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle, our 31-page ebook, including your free 90-day social media content calendar to help you build more mindshare so that you get more market share. A reminder as well that if you want to talk about personalized one-to-one coaching, an in-person keynote talk for your upcoming event, and or ongoing virtual training, just get in touch with us. We'll set up a consultation call, learn more what you're looking to achieve and how we are going to help you do just that. Again, for all inquiries, just get in touch with us today. Also, want to remind you, please do not forget, really asking, I just love seeing these things, but if you can go on to ratethispodcast.com/mindshare101. Again, that's www.ratethispodcast.com/mindshare101. Leave us a big 5 stars. Don't leave us 4 stars or 3 stars, please. Just 5-star option. Nice little review about how much you love the show. I would be super grateful. Means a lot. Of course, you can skip all the Rate This Podcast, go straight to iTunes, go straight to Spotify. But if you could take a moment to do that, that'd be awesome. Of course, connect with me on Facebook at MindShare101 and on Instagram at David Greenspan101. Just before we take off, I want to thank Kits Keep in Touch Systems as well as REM Real Estate Magazine for sponsoring this episode of the MindShare podcast. Be sure to visit our site to learn more about what these powerful companies will do to help you grow your business. This has been another episode of the MindShare podcast. Thank you for tuning in.